Hello. No sound from you, Syl. Okay. No sound from you, Syl.
Okay. To change the microphone for whatever reason. I don't know why.
No. It's okay. Okay. Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to another live. And today is Thursday, and we are going to do some fun stuff. Okay, because this is what we are doing regularly. Before we start, hello, Syl. How are you? Syl, can you hear me? No, you cannot. Sorry, you need to adjust the sound setting first.
Yeah, keep going. Keep
No.
going. You can't hear
Okay.
me? I hear you. You can hear me.
Anyway. Okay. So it is coming, but yes, now I can hear you. It was just a delay, some technical
Yeah.
glitches, which is good. Just to
Yeah.
be, use it as a mechanism of being deliberate. So we are paying attention. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, and we will go through that. Anyway, thank you, Grain, for being here. Thank you. Hopefully Norma will be there because this is what she always do. So kind of her, and welcome everyone, whoever is going to watch us live or in recorded videos also. If you watch it live, okay, you are most welcome to comment and share. And if you are watching it recorded, please do leave your feedback. This is going to enhance the value for us. Thought of the day. Um, Throughout my day, we are fasting, so uh, it's a different kind of a routine, and of course, your energy level is different. More on a, like you can say that, a bit slowish, not lazy, but a bit slowish energy, mood, and everything is a bit slowish for me because the summer has already arrived here in Karachi, and we are having hot weather. And during this time, when you are fasting, your body automatically attune to save energy, to not get dehydrated. That's why it is just a bit slowish. I was just paying attention to that, how things actually changes and how our body works independently from us, from mind also, because it's
Ah.
like constantly we are more than one people or being here. My body, or in, of course, in anyone's, it can be anyone's, our body. Let's say that, and our mind, and in our mind multiple thoughts, multiple perspectives, also conscious, subconscious, all those sort of things, and then our soul and heart and all, and who knows, maybe someday we will find more, which proves that if we just start paying attention, we will see that, okay, it proves that we are not just one, we are part of many. I don't know how many, but we are part of many. We are connected to many. We are constructed of many things, by many things, many beings, which is very interesting. That if you have to communicate yourself, you cannot assume that you have to communicate. You are communicating with just one being, many beings. So you need multiple perspectives to satisfy yourself. And this is what was part in the reading when Syl was elucidating some answers, and giving some answers to the question, very profound questions. And I was thinking that why human mind not able to understand, like all the minds of all the human are not able to understand just by one thing. Like if you say that, oh, this is it. And what if that, okay, why not that everyone understand it immediately, exactly same? Why? And why sometimes the same concept, same idea, which you have been sharing like 1,000 times, doesn't click, and then suddenly with new words, with new vocabulary, with new tone, it's just click, and then you will say, oh, and the other person say, but this was there, this has been there for, I don't know, like forever, but you were not able to perceive. This
Hello,
is
hello,
because,
Ramzi.
hello, Ramzi.
Glad you're here,
Good,
man. Yeah.
good to see you. Yes. And we need, that's why we need different language, because we are not just one. At least this is what I'm feeling right now, I'm thinking right now, that because we are not just one, that's why we don't understand just by one example. It can click, of course, but we need a precise language which actually get attuned with that dominant self in those moments when we are having it. We need that, and this is how things are working, which gives one a more patience, because it's an understanding, and understanding is even a deliberate one or just organically happen. Understanding is the key or the foundation for the patience. Once you understand, you cannot be impatient. No, you cannot be. So you have to have that understanding first
Point.
to have, and mostly when we don't understand. And this is what I'm observing. Of course, I will think more about it, and I will observe more about it, and I'll try to learn more about it. That understanding is the key. Once you understand, you cannot be impatient. What we can understand, sometimes reasons, sometimes logic, and sometimes just understanding that other beings also have a right to exercise their freedom, to be on their own pace,
Yeah.
be in their own dimension, to work according to their will and choice. Once you understand this concept, then of course we cannot be impatient. I don't like to have that much patience, but still, it's a superpower. It's a really a huge superpower, because people who have, in not so nice words, ridiculous patience, they have immense understanding of things and logic and reasons. That's why they don't get impatient. And people like me who sometimes get impatient, like, because, oh yeah, like, why it doesn't, like, I don't like all sort of things, because they are not understanding the reasons behind that. They're not willing to understand the reason behind that. So this is my thought of the day for myself. My thoughts are always for myself. I just love to share, because I can hear in my own words, so I can understand it more. That's the whole purpose for sharing all
Yes.
these things.
Yes.
And today's thought was, understanding is the bedrock of patience.
Yes. And more. And more. So much
And
more. I mean,
yes,
patience is a superpower. But yeah, I mean, I like that. Are you saying it? It's very powerful. Let me just get here. There we go.
impatience always, almost always, happens, uh, comes when we don't have a complete understanding of circumstances, situations, and others. Only then we get impatient. That is something huge for me, of course. Anyway, so coming back to the same thing, that most of the fun part is, most of my friends, they do ask me that, oh, don't you guys get tired when you're fasting for like 16 hours or 17 hours or 13 hours or 40, whatever? They're like, okay, oh, it's too much. We like, you cannot eat anything at all. No, you cannot drink water, and I guess not a single drop. And how you survive? You cannot eat almost perfectly. It is just to give rest to your digestive system also. That, okay, come on,
Amazes me
like
that.
once a year, give a bit of time where nothing is going in. You don't need to do anything, just rest and chill for a few hours. And of course, we don't do anything, we just eat our lunch a bit late. That's it. That's the whole thing, because we do our breakfast very early before dawn, and then of course we take our uh, lunch a bit late at sunset. That's the whole thing, the whole idea. So that it is not stressful at all. Of course, there is a freedom for people who are not in this medically in condition. Physically, they are not able to do that. They can skip that very easily, no problem. For children, of course, they are not obliged to. For women in their cycle of pregnancy, and if they are feeding, if they don't want to, of course, they can get the leave for that. So no problem. And people who are traveling also, They're not obliged to do the fasting. No. So there are so many things. It is for people and it is who are just okay in a regular thing. We keep um, forcing our system, breathing system, digestive system, all the like every kind like respiratory and everything. We keep pressurizing it by doing extra word, extra thing. So once a year, it's a practice. In other, of course, in other culture also, in Hinduism also, they are fasting, and now fasting is becoming a huge deal, a new trend or a buzzword in health industry, I must say. And everybody is talking about intermittent fasting. This is, but they do that only for 1 month. After that, they can do. There are suggestions suggested, but not obliged to. So that is something which I'm doing and I'm enjoying it. Okay, so can we now? It's
Yes,
done.
yes, yes.
Can we
So
start? Okay.
what we are going to
I was just
do,
filling in.
yes, we're going to read some more from the Ask Biella books that I am publishing. Right?
Okay.
I want to get them published before the podcasts. Um, and when we read them like this, not only does it help me get some feedback on it, but also helps me to edit. That's because when you edit, or you're listening and reading at the same time, right? Reading along with somebody reading, then you really can hear things that you wouldn't otherwise hear. And you're following word by word rather than reading fast. So word by word is what you need to do with editing. But when you just read, typically, we go fast and we read and we see what should be there, not what is there. We were reading earlier, and Beena was, when she came to, like say, I typed some, but I left out the S, right? So she would fill that in. But I said, no, read it like it's written. So she would read, and yes, we have things we need to do. See, that catches your ear. When you're listening to AI read, they tend to do this. Not tend, they do. They read exactly as it's written. So using AI to edit is fantastic because they read it exactly as it's written. Now, of course, they won't catch things like capitals that are missing from the start of the sentence and things like that. That's why you need to read along with it. But because it's slower, it's more focused, it's more acute. Yeah, and you catch very, very many things that you wouldn't otherwise catch. Very big deal. All right, Beena, I just finished reading that one we were reading before, and we'll go on to the next one. I checked it now, so it's the last two sections are there, and we've I've edited them enough. So we'll just move on to the next one. I mean, I like to go through all of them with you, but if not possible, not possible. All right, would you read, please? I need to screen share.
You need to
No,
screen share.
not end the meeting. Screen share. Different click. Different click. So hello, Ramzi. I'm pleased to hear. Where's Norma? Where's Norma? I think she was online. Come on, Norma. Tell Norma that Ramzi's here. I'm listening to you, Norma. I like it when you hear Norma. It's a great comfort. Great comfort. Always contribute so much as well. Hope you come. Hope you come. All right. I'm glad to hear, Ramzi, especially since I'm sharing writing. Like I said, these are going to be two books. You can see all the chapters here. A lot of them, and the other book is the same amount. Originally, I thought to do them in one book, but it's too much for one book, so I get into two. And likely, from this will come more questions. I just got one last night, and I wrote a whole new chapter just this morning. Very cool question that came from somebody in group and so on. I get these questions every now and then. Asked a great question. Very cool. All right, Beena, will you read, please?
Okay. Personal responsibility. Has anyone been able to change a deeply entrenched view of yours? Okay.
Of these questions,
Okay. So
I'm just
yes.
astonished at the questions that come my way. By the way, just to add to this, all of these Ask Biella questions. I get asked lots of questions, but I didn't always respond to them. Well, if they were asked specifically of Biella, yes. But sometimes the question was asked of me and I responded to it via Biella. Because doing so, I get into Biella character. There's a moreness that comes to it that's somewhat hard to explain, but still. And Biella has certain qualities which I don't readily go to, right? She makes that extra effort. She has a kindness and a caring and a gentleness, which I have, but it's not that obvious necessarily always. It's not on the forefront. But nonetheless, right? And there's a greater framework in which she responds because through Biella, I am also exemplifying what Nobelia-Living is. Yes, all the way she responds, she didn't just answer the question. Like there was a question, somebody said, are there expert opinions on something? And the answer could have just been yes, they are, right? But the implication in the question is that they wanted to know about the things that what are these and so on. So just not necessarily an accurately phrased question. Could have been, but Biella's deep consideration and nobelia diplomacy and that moreness, that nobility of hers gets her to answer extra, way and above. And she gives through Nobelia-Living, she shares from her perspective, which is that of a new noble. Now, doesn't the person reading the responses may have no idea about all of this, doesn't matter, because she is taking it within this context and responding to it, to the realness in this world. This has started off as a newspaper column, right? As an advice column, in other words. But she always gives extra. And she gives this alternative perspectives, looking at the moreness and the bigger picture, which is so often missed, right? So she doesn't just give cliched band-aid responses. But also the point I started to make is that uh, almost always actually, I can't think of when it wasn't so, but always these questions were earnestly asked. And that's part of the core here. Because people aren't going to make an effort to ask something like this if it's not important to them. So that earnestness comes through. And not only, especially the questions, or not especially, but all the questions that were asked directly of Biella herself were always very earnest questions, like this, right? It's an earnest question. I don't know how you tell, but somehow we can know when a question is earnest or not. But sometimes I get asked questions. Not always are those earnest. Sometimes they're a bit frivolous. But when they are earnest questions, I responded to them. Now, I just responded to them and made blog posts out of that response. And many of those became Ask Biella responses and articles as well. That's very cool. So the earnestness is what I want to mention here. The earnestness has a profound effect, not just on me, but on the world in general, but especially so on me and on Biella. Very much respond and react to earnestness. As you know, right, Beena? So I got asked an earnest question, and last night while I was sleeping, and when I woke up, man, this is cool. So I answered it as Biella. Right, just to put that into context of Ask Biella, right? That these are not just responses to the questions, but they revelations of being. Yes, they show us who Biella is through her responses. So, and getting to understand who Biella is gives us an understanding of a way of being and a way of living that's not typical, right? She's not an ordinary person. I mean, it doesn't make her special in any way. She's just not ordinary, right? And she has a moreness to her, which is not typically available to us in our everyday lives, or at least in my experience, not at all, despite looking very assiduously for it. Yet, at least not to the degree it is so in Biella, right, Beena? May have some of it, certainly not to that degree. So I'm saying, though, that the value of Ask Biella doesn't only lie in her responses to the questions, but how she responds. Beena, I need to put this in the introduction. Yes? Yes. Okay, I will. I won't forget. Right? It's not what she says, but how she says it, and the greater context of her sharing. I did say somewhat there about Nobelia-Living. I did mention that, but this how is important. All right, so let's listen to how in this article now. Let's listen to how Biella responds, because she doesn't reply, she responds. She doesn't answer, she responds. I need to put that in the introduction as well, right, Beena? That Biella doesn't
Yes.
answer the question, she responds to them. Yes. Ramzi,
Yes.
you are a writer and author also. I would very much appreciate your feedback, how you enjoyed the article. Could you hear Biella through this, how she responds, etc. Right? So please, Ramzi, feedback and comments required. And also, Ramzi, when I'm still got that, I want to do a live or multiple lives where we read from your book and do some capital R reading from your book. Now, all of them, not just the latest one. I mentioned this about the previous ones before, but never happened. But okay, we can start with the latest one since it's pertinent and relevant. Right? So we'll do the same with yours. All right. Please read, Beena. Please read. Please.
Okay, so the name is Sean. This is how it pronounced?
Correct, correct. Some say
Yeah.
scene
Okay.
sometimes. I have heard it pronounced that. When
Uh-huh.
I was a boy, it was Sean Connery. It took a long time before I
Uh-huh.
actually heard this pronounced as Sean. It's an Irish thing that they pronounce S-E-S or S-E-A-S.
Okay. Okay. Because I heard this Sean, so that's why I'm asking.
Correct.
Okay.
It is typically Sean, but it's spelled, and it's one of those silly things that, idiosyncrasies of language.
Okay.
More so noticed in,
Okay.
in Irish English. Right. Go ahead.
Okay. Has anyone been able to change a deeply entrenched view of yours? Dear Sean, there are two core assumptions in your question which deeply affect how we are as individuals and our beliefs concerning ourselves. Two powerful myths or misbeliefs, really. One is that someone else can change our views, and the other concerns deeply entrenched ideas. Changing deeply entrenched views or beliefs, no matter how much it may seem otherwise, in the end, is always done by the individual. We may get a new idea or belief from someone else, but the decision to change itself is always ours. To
You
change,
don't
okay,
realize
but
it.
the decision to change, oh, but the decision to change ourselves,
Yeah.
or but the decision to change itself, okay, is always ours. It's all too easy to confuse the belief or the idea with the decision to adopt it as our own and to replace what we had. The two are not the same. No one can force an idea change. Okay. No matter how good the idea, no matter how sound the logic or reason, it's still up to the individual to accept and to adopt the change.
Go ahead, Beena. Go ahead. Oh.
We but need to look We but need to look at people who cling to outdated and self destructive ideas, who refuse to change their minds out of stubbornness, pride, or self importance. Logic, reason, and sensibility make no difference. Besides, we as the individual have to decide what is sensible or logical or rational to us. What is so for one is not necessarily so for another. Even fact can be disputed. We do not always perceive everything the same way. If we look carefully, and especially if we are honest internally, we will notice that it's always ourselves that makes the final decision whether or not to accept or and believe something and to make it our own. Some who do not like to assume responsibility for their actions like to lay the responsibility for their beliefs or ideas on others, often claiming they were influenced. But really, all they are doing is trying to avoid blame or consequence of some kind. All we have to do is observe how those same people are influenced selectively. They don't just blindly accept and believe absolutely everything, even from the same person. And if we look even closer, we see how what they accept is personalized to suit them in subtle details, revealing their individual choice in it all. Wonderful, 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 because this has, okay, it can be missed easily, and we don't actually pay attention to this nuance thing that how the influences actually work. For me, that is something like really, it becomes, I don't know, or it was innate. I cannot say about it, but I always take responsibility, try to take responsibility of my actions and reactions. And also, the influence is something, yes, it's a very deliberate choice for me, at least in this case, which is capital R receptivity. Okay. Self-determination. Sorry?
Oh, I'll keep going.
Yes, okay. But your screen is cutting off the.
Ah, good. Yeah. I'll fix that in a moment. Cross. There we go. You know, so that when I answer and reply to Ramzi, yes, I know you got away. It's all good, Ramzi. It's all good. I'm glad you're here, mate. I'm glad you're here. It's always great to have you here. Move this across some more. There we go. Now, when I respond, then it won't. You see, it won't affect the read. All right, keep going, please, Beena. You like that
Okay,
last paragraph, right?
yes.
Yeah.
It is still cutting for me, sir. Okay, now. Okay, it was a delay. Sorry. Okay. Self-determination. Oh, sorry. Entrenched beliefs? No, this is what we did
Beliefs, yeah.
already. Okay. Beliefs and ideas change. I'm sorry, I'm just missing where I.
Entrenched beliefs. You're in entrenched beliefs.
Okay. Entrenched belief. Deeply held ideas are a problem and tricky to deal with. Changing them is often difficult and requires much effort, even when we are motivated to do so and the matter is purely internal. For someone to be able to do so without the cooperation of the individual is highly unlikely. But I would like to come at this issue from a different angle. Society tends to support the idea that having deeply held beliefs is a good thing. It shows character. Is one such supporting belief? One should have solid fixed beliefs. But really, this is a problem. It's an arrogance based idea. It presumes we know what is not only true, but also valuable. This idea asks us to set ourselves for life, sometime as a young adult or even child, with ideas which are to serve us for the rest of our lives. But we only need to look at history and look at commonly held deep beliefs people tried to live by, which were absurd. Beliefs and ideas change, they are constantly evolving and being updated. This may seem slow in relation to any individual time scale, but on a societal level, it's always happening. If we buy into this idea, we become locked into our beliefs and ideas, and changing becomes difficult because we now believe that changing itself is bad. This results, of course, in a narrowness and inflexibility of being, where the individual has difficulty adapting a severely limiting way of being.
Has difficulty adapting, full stop.
Okay. Has difficulty adapting a severely limiting way of being.
Yes. That's important, that full stop there, right?
Yes. Self-determination. If we are thus unable to change, we stop growing and learning. We stop evolving as individuals and we become locked to a subtle arrogance of being because we are tied to the idea that we already know what's the best for us.
The big deal.
Jumps
I
up.
mean, Biella's taking a turn here, right? In a very,
Yes.
very powerful way in answering
Yeah.
or responding to this question, because she cannot,
Yes.
in good conscience, respond to it the way it's asked, right?
Yes. Yes. But if we let go of this idea of holding deeply entrenched views, if we open off to, okay, if we open off to using whatever is
Hang on, that
appropriate.
doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. Right. Let's see. If
First paragraph. We
we
open.
open, but if we let go of this idea of holding deeply, if we open up to using what if or better if we are open, There we go. If we are open to using, there we go. All right, read it again, please, Peter, from here.
Okay. Okay. If we are open, sorry, but if we let go of this idea of holding deeply entrenched views, if we open,
If we are
for
open,
me, it is
it
still
hasn't updated yet.
okay.
If we are open.
Okay. If we are open to using whatever is appropriate, especially in all contexts, from our overall life context all the way to the immediate, then we open ourselves to always being able to learn and grow. Keeping all of this in mind, especially when looking for answers, will cause us to pay closer attention to what we choose to believe. We will ask why, on what basis? Does it make sense to us? Once we start examining answers and solutions, suggestions, and ideas more closely, we come to see that in the end, we ourselves are the actual authority over everything that becomes ours. We are, in fact, the final arbiter of truth. This is a reality and responsibility we cannot escape, no matter how much some may try to.
Risky change. Going, please, Beena.
My screen has not been updated. I need to.
Wow.
Okay, now it is. Okay, yes, now it is. So it takes quite a lot of time to.
Yeah. That's why I try and scroll up in anticipation.
So, okay, thank you. Risky change. Once we make peace with this realness, we can look at the matter of habits and changing them, which is a whole other topic. And it's here really that deeply entrenched views and changing them typically are dealt with. It can happen that we can switch and change our lifelong beliefs in an instant because the apparent truth of something was so overwhelming. But this is rare because the body mind is wary of change, as change represents risk. Understanding all of this helps tremendously for not only changing, but for unhooking from the ideas that lock us into being limited to only certain views, ideas, or beliefs. I personally have tried to not have deeply entrenched views, as I have found that over time, pretty much everything changes in how we perceive it. All depends. The more aware we become over time, the more perspectives we develop, and the more we see that how a view of or belief applies differently. It always depends on the particular circumstances, which are seldom the same. Thus, it's useful to have that flexibility and adaptability to always be able to be appropriate as needed. Biella.
Ramzi, what do you make of Biella since you're new to Biella? What are your thoughts on Biella? What do you make of her? What do you think of this article, this chapter, Beena?
Oh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. And then so key to understand. Okay, again, it sounds very redundant when we keep saying that, okay, it's life transformative, but actually we don't have any other word right now for that. This is also life transformative. When you understand this, that, okay, this is my decision, and actually I can make a decision, because mostly we assume that we cannot make a decision to be influenced or not by any idea or belief. This is the problem mostly we have. We assume that there is no choice, there is no option. If someone is saying with authority, if
Yes.
someone is coming from a different perspective and saying it and making it sound like a valuable thing, we have to. And we assume that we don't have any other option. And also that, of course, it is actually remedying a lot of misconceptions about that. Accepting any idea or belief coming from anyone who is in some way special or important to us is a sign of respect and love and care.
Correct.
And which by implication get into the should mindset, that not accepting this idea and not getting influenced by that is a disrespect and not loving and not caring, which is, of course, not true.
Exactly. Wonderful repeat back there, Beena. That was a repeat back.
Yes,
And
and this is
words, and it sounds like a takeaway. And yes, it also is a takeaway, but it was a very excellent repeat back of what was said. Yeah. So come
it
on,
is life
Ramzi,
transformative.
Biella.
It is life transformative because once we understand that we have a choice to allow any idea or belief to influence us or not. Influence in its very core is not a nice word because we have to be very cautious of to get influence with anything,
Yeah.
even if it is the most profound
To
thing.
be
Like
affected, you could
in
say,
this case,
necessarily influenced,
yes,
but affected. Yeah. Yeah. And that
yes,
the measure or the degree of effect can make a huge.
yes, because I'm not sure about the etymology or anything about this word, but influence sounds like for me is like, okay, you have no power over it, like you have no control over it. It is just going to
Correct.
wipe out.
Correct. Precisely. And that's the belief, the myth that we are
Yes,
affected. So we are
yes,
influenced when actually we are affected. We don't realize it at the time, and it seems like we are influenced. And
yes,
I suppose sometimes that might happen so, but in general, at least maybe in the moment, we might be influenced. But later, when we come to think about this and be aware, like when we're children, we can be influenced. But
yes,
we even as children, though, we still have that measure of self-determination as we become aware, right? Now, of course, if you've
yes.
already been influenced before you become aware, then that's hard to sometimes be aware that the influence is there because it could be subtle.
That in these type of situations, awareness can be, at certain extent, can be self-curative.
Mm-hmm.
Once you are aware that it's an
Hard to be
influence, once
aware
you
of
understand,
our beliefs sometimes, even if
yes,
we
so then,
require them. So this is basically the same point that we need to that was made in the article we wrote earlier, right? What we started earlier.
yes,
Wow,
yes,
that you were assisting me in, and that when we start to look at what we are, right, and
hmm.
these deeply held beliefs and perceptions and attitudes, ideas, etc. We can't necessarily see them directly, but we can start to assess our behavior. And when we make this point to actually assess our behavior with this intent to understand what it is that motivated us, that influenced us, that propelled us, that caused us to do what we did, and also how we reacted and responded and behaved, then we can get an idea of the underlying motivation. And when we understand motivation, of course, we understand ourselves, right? Because motivation will reveal the underlying belief. Yes? Because a belief that doesn't motivate us in even in the tiniest way is a belief that doesn't matter.
Yes,
If we're not acting on that belief, if that belief is not affecting our behavior, and the effect on that behavior comes via the motivation to apply that. Yes. Now, it's sometimes a very subtle motivation, but nonetheless, when we look, oh, we're behaving in this way. Why? Oh, well, because I believe this. See, it's not a direct motivation, like it made me want to behave this way, but it motivated me in another way of looking at motivation to behave in that way. See, it didn't
hmm.
it didn't motivate me to behave. It motivated me to behave in that way. Yeah. See,
Yes,
but still, it's still motivation. Truly, this to me is my personal psychology that I've developed. I don't know if anybody else has. I certainly didn't see it when I studied psychology, but to understand psychology via motivation, I call it motive psychology, right? Because it's motivation and also motive. Yeah. So when we behave, like I said, sometimes I'm motivated, but my motive for behaving comes from the beliefs, yes, understandings, awarenesses, principles, morals, etc. Right. So these all provide
yes,
motive or motivation. Right. It's all the same. motive psychology is, to me, it's massively valuable and profound, and makes understanding psychology and what people are about really simple and easy when you get down to
Yes.
it. Yeah, well, the thing is, so to finish that, sorry, thing is, I want to say that, yes, of course, psychology pays attention to motivation, but not necessarily in the direct way of understanding psychology itself. I always found this rather puzzling. Maybe I missed something, it doesn't matter. That's why I call myself a psychologist, because I worked this out and created and developed all this myself, right? Like I developed my own philosophy also. Yeah? So I think it's important that we are psychologists and philosophers, right? As opposed to a psychologist who is somebody who applies a psychology developed by someone else. Typically, I suppose they could be applying their own. But when we go to a psychologist, that's what it means. Somebody who is implementing and applying a psychology created by somebody else, right? Or a group, maybe, possibly. But typically, it's just individual. But why not have this to psychology? It's a very important point that if we are, and if you really think about philosophy, any philosopher will tell you, if they anything worth their salt, that you need to develop your own philosophy. Yes, I can give you some guidelines and tell you what I believe is, but at the end of the day, philosophy is not science. It comes down to what works for you, and it's got very much to do your personal philosophy. Yes, okay, when it comes to ethics, there's somewhat less flexibility, but much of philosophy revolves around style, how you just wish to approach life, right? And so it's not necessarily that this is something that's hard and fast, right? You have to make those choices. And with that,
Yes.
too, there's some leeway when it comes to ethics. And I don't mean it's squirrely leeway, but when you have real serious people who get into ethics, they will debate very fiercely where that line of ethics is. Very hard to determine. So it's not as if I'm being squirrely to say the line is here or there. It's just that this is something that's very, very intimately personal. Ethics is connected to your conscience. So the philosophy of ethics by itself, yes, there are broad understandings, but it becomes intimately personal, and you have to be able to do that. Now, how is philosophy and psychology not related? Yes, because if your psychology is messed up and you don't have the ability, like you said earlier, Beena, the ability to develop understanding, how are you going to be able to have any way to actually gauge the value and assess? Yeah. So you need to have your
Yes.
psychology sorted before you can even get into philosophy. Now, back in the day, like in the Greek times, psychology and philosophy were both one and the same. They only got separated pretty much with Nietzsche and then later with Freud, right? But very much so. Freud made this a big deal and it went worldwide and went viral with Freud pretty much, right? But Nietzsche not so much. He's a bit more niche, yes. But Nietzsche used this term. Yeah. Anyway, it's a more modern development. This distinction between the two, because Freud was a medical doctor and he used psychology principally to treat issues, right? That people came to him as a doctor. Yes, I've got whatever it is, dementia or neuroses or whatever the problem was, right? And so this was it was something that was affecting their health and well-being. But never, and it took a long time. Even now today, you starting to see it. But man, I could never figure out why there wasn't psychology that was geared towards self-improvement. It's like, duh, yeah. I mean, if psychology leads to mental health issues, right, and problems of behavior and health issues, right, like in neuroses, can excessive worry and anxiety can affect your physical health, right, or related.
Mm.
But but there's an understanding that if your psychology is messed up, then you can really be stressed, bothered, put out and cause problems in your life. But when you take away the problem psychology, that doesn't mean that the psychology we generally have leads to well-being. It doesn't. Look at the average psychologist, the average person, and look at how the self-improvement industry, which started pretty much in the 70s or maybe in the 60s, but became more substantial in the 70s, right? How this, the root origins, of it becoming more so. Yeah, I mean, it was always been around, of course, but really as a thing. Like where you had a section in the bookstore. I think that only came in the 80s, by the way. And libraries where there was a self-improvement shelf. Isn't that incredible, Bean? Isn't that incredible? I mean, I used to go to the bookshop almost every single day, right? Or the library, yes? And there was no such section. I saw those sections come into being. Yeah? I saw it happen, right? It really blew my mind. Now,
Yes.
go to the average bookstore or library, and self-improvement is a huge, massive section. It's one of the biggest sections there are. And it's got the subsections and all of this, right? But it didn't exist even as recently as, in the 70s. Wow, how long ago was that? 20, 30, 30 to 40 years ago. In a generation, in other words. Fantastic. It's really fantastic. Right, almost 2 generations now. Stop. It's a big deal. What I'm saying, though, is that even today still, psychology isn't seen as a tool for self-improvement. If we are taught psychology and how to think appropriately, in other words, how to conceive
Yes.
quickly, how to deal with our emotions appropriately, which is part of psychology. Psychology isn't just thinking, right? Psychology is also feeling. Yes. So, in other words, mood management, association management, belief management, all these managements, yes, of which Way-of-Impeccability has got a whole bunch of them, habit management, etc., etc., etc. Way-of-Impeccability is a profound course on psychology. It's very subtle. It's not said so specifically, but it is, right? Because if we don't have our psychology in order, how can we apply and implement and even assess and determine a philosophy of living? We cannot. So psychology has to be part of philosophy. It has to be an integral part of application, like you were saying earlier about understanding being integral to patience. Yes. Same thing with forgiveness. Both of them understanding. But what is understanding but not a function of a very healthy and very proficiently functional, yes, and well developed psychology. Understanding doesn't just come automatically. It's not something that's there inherently. We have to work at coming to true, real understanding, correct? Because we have to have humility, for instance. We have to have good character qualities. We have to have perseverance and discipline to check and recheck and be thorough and screw. Impeccability, in other words, is essential for gaining understanding, as is why ADU is so important. And it's ADU. In order to truly get to have thorough, capital U, Nobelia understanding, we have to have discernment, Nobelia discernment, and Nobelia awareness. In other words, not just regular discernment, not just regular awareness, but the depth. In other words, the discernment, we have to have that sophistication to be able to see the multiple layers. We have to have that ability to see things from multiple perspectives. Not just one or two, but multiple. We have to have the ability to think things through to the end. We're never going to get to understanding if you don't think things through to the end. Why those two qualities are so critical in Way-of-Impeccability. See how it all ties together for developing the psychology that enables understanding. And of course, the most critical thing and the failure of academia, I really blame them in this, yes, is that they pursue understanding, but they fail to pursue application of that understanding. And this is incredible to me. It blows my mind how psychologists don't make this jump to understand that understanding on its own is not enough to apply. Yes. So yes, awareness, discernment, understanding are massively valuable, but understanding in and of itself without application, meaningless. Yes. So it all ties together. This is very important when we are looking to answer questions. In other words, when we are looking to improve, develop, grow, learn. Yes, which is all about answering questions, the questions of existence, in other words, right? Anything that you are doing and you are looking to answer, how can I do it better? How can I be more? It's always some question, even if it's not overt, it is implied. underlying, yes, implicit. And when we answer questions, we have to take it all the way to application. Yes, otherwise, all meaningless. Fascinating to me how this is not so. Not so.
Yes.
The part of it. Very cool. Very cool. Ramzi, I
Yes.
haven't seen anything from you. Maybe I need to refresh this here. I'm very keen to know what you think of Biella. Not the article. I'm keen to know about that too. But, making it. One second. Let's put off the sound here. Dang it. Always so. There we go. Right. What does Ramzi say? Well, I was away. I did not catch up with the reading. Just got back. No, that's all right, Ramzi. I'm just keen for you to hear the article that we read, because this whole book is. If we look here at the contents, right? It may be a little small to see. I can't make it bigger either. If I make it bigger, I only make this side bigger. I have to go in settings somewhere. But the chapters are: I want smart friends. It's all questions, right? Chapter 2, how can I find peace and happiness? Chapter 3, how can I find passion and bliss in everyday life without alcohol? I know the rest of it. How can I gain a positive perspective when all around me is negative? What are the positive thoughts I'm ignoring? And so on, right? So each chapter, in other words, is a question. So they all individual. They don't follow on from each other. But what does follow on is this awareness and understanding and perception of Biella. And once it may not be overtly so, right? But if we read with listening to how Biella responds to the question, to get to understand who Biella is, this changes the reading of the book. Because we're going to come away with an understanding of Biella that is quite profound, because Biella is quite profound as an individual. Not profound in what she says. It's not what I mean. I mean, she is profound as an individual in this, that she possesses a way of being and employs and applies a way of living which is profound. It's profound because it is so phenomenally different to the typical that we see. In other words, Biella is profound as an individual because she is more. Not more in quantity, right, or even quality, but more in attainability. She represents what we can attain. So she's not necessarily better. Yes, her moreness is simply because she's made that effort to do it. So her moreness is by implication a moreness that we too can acquire. And this is profound. To realize, to have an example, not just an example, but an exemplar of a moreness that is available to us, that's feasible and realistic, because we can see her responses here are real, right? And through this, we can say, how did Biella come to be Biella? Yes, it's not like this is some inherent skill you can see. It's not like she's got it. No, you can clearly see if you listen to it. This is stuff that, she'll tell about. She'll say, this is how I learned this. She'll reveal how she's come to. Right? So we get this understanding of the profoundness of Biella as an individual, as because she's an example of what is possible, what is available to us. Something, in other words, Biella's profoundness as an individual comes because Biella reveals what it is that we can aspire to. Not to copy Biella, but to be more in the same way that Biella is more. Right? Our own individual moreness. Yes, as Biella will clearly make it so obvious here in many, many ways. Like in this last one, where we looked at entrenched beliefs. Yes, wasn't her key point here that of self-determination of what your important beliefs are, and not to make them core beliefs that lock you in, but to remain flexible and fluid and adaptable, right? And to change as needed. But implied in that is that you need to pursue your moreness as an individual, right? Not to conform once more to just a different should, maybe a larger, broader should, but still a should. No, it should, right? So we can gain this and glean this by implication from reading these articles, and from reading from the perspective of determining who the other is. Not only who, but kind of what kind of a person is she? How did she come to be so? When we ask these questions, we learn more, right? And we see Biella's that we can be more. The profoundness is to realize that we can aspire to be more, like Biella. And I don't mean like when I say like Biella is a more, we can be a more. Like Biella is an individual more, we can be an individual more, right? Not to be copycats of Biella. Although, if you want to do that, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's a worthy aspiration, right? That's fine too, as long as it's a deliberate, clear, conscious choice and you make it your own. I'm going to be like Biella, but because I really want to be this way. No problem with that. That's really what you want to do. So I'm keen to know, Ramzi, what you think of Biella, how you relate to this. Yes? Right, let's read the next chapter. Hopefully Ramzi's here. I know Ramzi, sometimes we're listening and we're busy and we can't type and we can't pay full attention. I appreciate that. But if you can, I would very much like to hear your perspective and your opinion. And Norma too, if you're here. I don't see you, Norma, but all right. Please read, Beena. Please read. Let me just check one thing real quick, Beena, before we continue.
Yes.
Just check this really quickly. Yeah, where is my follow-up here? Yeah, because I sent a thing to Jason to come on Zoom at 12 o'clock. So we must just look to see if he responded in case we go over. I haven't seen it yet. All right. Maybe I sent it too soon, Yeah. Okay, please read, Beena.
Okay.
Come on, go ahead.
It is uploading for me.
Oh, right. Positive necessity. That's what you're looking for. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one.
Okay. How do you maintain your, you have a pop-up screen?
Yeah. Sorry, I was doing spelling editing, but I'll just type it in there.
Okay. How do you maintain your positive outlook in life? Dear Sandy, a young man's story is particularly pertinent to your question. In his words, as he answered the same question from a friend. For me, personally, it started because I had no choice. I saw and felt too much. My love of understanding and insight at a very early age led me to see way more than I could handle. I had to insist on developing unrelenting positivity, or I would be dead now. I do not mean to be melodramatic, but that really was the choice then. It was either maintain my immersion in seeing things as they were, as I believed was sensible at the time, and drown in the sadness of it all, or develop some other way of being.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Unrelenting honesty. But I could not just simply lie to myself and pretend I didn't see what I saw. So I was in a pickle. I realized I had a problem. I struggled along, doing my best until one day something profound happened. There was a girl in my class who, for some reason, always would fight with me. Whatever I said, she would take issue with. Okay, where it is now. Okay, issue with responding negatively to whatever I did. Somewhat of a mystery to me. I would get into it with her, giving back as good as I received. But on the fateful, wonderful day, right in the midst of a heated argument, I saw how Therese, that was her name.
Yeah.
Yes. Therese was responding to my beliefs about her.
Yeah.
In that moment inside the argument, what I saw shocked and horrified me. A most complex
Let's go back. I missed that this one. Yeah, read this guy back on that fateful day. I missed the end of that, and it's very important to the rest of this.
Okay. But on that fateful, wonderful day, right in the midst of a heated argument, I saw how Therese, that was her name, how Therese was responding to my beliefs about her.
Yeah, Therese, it should have an accent on the E, but all right.
Okay. In that moment inside the argument, what I saw shocked and horrified me. A most complex perception flashed at me in an instant. I realized that Therese was behaving as she believed she should relative to me. My perception of her triggered her behavior. This affected me deeply. I realized I was responsible to a large measure for how Teray behaved towards me. My accurate and realistic perception of her was a self fulfilling prophecy, at least in terms of how she behaved in relation to me. To connect to your question, when I realized that if I was not positive, it could and would result in me creating negativity. Well, there was no way I could allow that to happen and be so. In addition to drowning in sadness, I now had another reason to be positive. Infectious ethics. I changed then. I had to. Besides affecting others in how they related to me, as I thought it all through, I realized that not only were my perspectives, attitudes, and beliefs making difference in how others behaved towards me, but it also affected how they behaved towards others. I saw how negativity and positivity is like a contagious virus. If I was negative towards someone, even if only in belief, that affected them. They might not respond to me directly, as Trey had done, but that negativity found releases somewhere and was usually passed on to others in some way.
Yeah, found
This
release.
understanding,
That's the
yes?
point. But that negative found release somewhere and was usually passed on to others in some way. Even if it
Now
wasn't,
you didn't,
I started it, in other words, didn't necessarily come back at me, right?
yeah,
But
but you, yes. Okay, it was not written with emphasis, so I just read it like that.
yeah, yeah,
This understanding really shook me up. How could I, in good conscience, add to the negativity of the world? I couldn't. I can't. Once we are fully aware of how we affect the life, affect the world around us, and affect others simply with our outlook on things, it changes us.
yeah.
We have to change or be complicit in infecting the world with negativity and contributing to its sadness and misery. No, that will not do in the real East.
No, that will not do in the least. Absolutely not. No, no.
So you have to
Everything perspective.
scroll. Okay. Leveraging perspectives. All this made me realize that my outlook was really not all that cut and dried as I had thought to be. What I perceived was not fixed or out there as it has seemed to be. Reality and me were intertwined. In my drive and desire to perceive the depths of reality, to understand and discern as much as I could, I had not initially realized how what I perceived and saw and witnessed was intimately connected to me, to how I was as a person, to what I believed, to my attitude and my perspectives. Knowing how responsible I now was, I had to change to positivity, as well as not drowning in sadness. I had no option really but to be positive. But I knew the power of habits. So, what I did and still do was I leveraged my stubbornness. I used my stubbornness positively. I resolved to be stubbornly insistent to find some good in everyone, in
By
every
some
situation.
good. How small.
Yes, to find some good in everyone, in every situation, no matter what, no matter how. I insisted that I would stubbornly find that good and focus only on that. Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. Effect and cause.
Effect and cause. That stubbornness, insistence on unrelenting positivity led to a major unexpected consequence, a lifelong profound change. I realized that the world does not work the way we think it does. The
Yeah,
world isn't this way or that. Rather, it's flexible. It changes. and how it very much depends on how we are. Also, I had simply fallen into the default belief and perception that things are either one way or the opposites, like it's either good or bad, positive or negative. The glass is either half full or half empty, but that is not so. Not everything is neatly opposite. That's just a convenience. Furthermore, we need to remember that no matter the state of the glass, we still actually have the glass itself.
Yeah, we forget that, right?
Yes, yes.
Question there.
For instance, why is us not always full? Full of air and liquid? It's all a matter of perspective. There is no truth to what it actually is. That's our choice. This is huge, especially for honest people. We try to see the world for what it's. So, for what it's.
For what it is.
To see it honestly, accurately. But once we realize that what we see is affected by us, by how we are, and especially by the perspectives we can choose to have, then we suddenly live in a whole different world, a world of possibilities, possibilities, possibility, possibility, flexibility, change, and of course, responsibility, especially ethical responsibility.
No, it is a world of possibility. Yes? Possibility is the category.
Yes. Okay.
Possibilities are the
Yes.
individual applications of that grand category. You know? Wow.
Yes. Extracting value and usefulness.
We'll just scroll.
Okay.
Okay.
To help maintain and to help maintain my positivity, besides constantly reminding myself not only that my perspective and thus my mood and how I feel is purely my choice, I also remind myself that my perspective is likewise a choice. All perspective is choice. How we see things is entirely up to us. We do not have to see anything in any particular way. To constantly remind myself of my deliberate perspective, I remember what the worst thing is good for. It's a good, bad example. It's a great reminder and a stimulus to that stubborn insistence of mine. I use that to insist on finding some usefulness and value out of any situation. It might not always be nice, but if I learn, there is always that good in it.
Yeah.
The awesomeness of this focus is that the more we find that good, that value, that usefulness, the more we extract that good, the more we insist on finding it, the easier it becomes to not only find it, but to see it, to recognize the good that is everywhere. We just have to make that effort to insist on looking and finding it.
Yeah. You know, I want to say
Bonus.
that that bit of effort, it's not a lot
Yes.
after a while. Initially, it might be, but no, not after a while. Like now, look how we do this daily. You and I, Beena,
Yes.
our interactions in Nobelia-Living. Boy, we don't even
Yes.
make an effort; it just comes naturally. We see
Oh,
the
yes.
we see the moreness, we see the good. It's you train your brain to see that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, very
Okay.
powerful. Bonus understanding.
Bonus understanding. The more I looked for good, the more I found good. Wow, okay. The more I looked for good, the more I found good. The more I keep on seeing and finding and connecting to good, thus maintaining a positive outlook becomes easier and easier. And for
This was
me,
what we were saying here. It is.
yes. And for me, the bonus of it all is that the more I look, the more I see. I see that the entire world, all of life, all of it is good. Why? Because in making every effort to look for and find goodness, I came to see how I didn't really have to make any effort to find it or extract it. All I had to do was understand.
Mm.
Once I realized that the point and purpose of it all was to assist us in developing and entrenching our awareness, then it all started to make sense. It all fit. Everything was geared toward that assistance. We have to figure it out for ourselves, but we can get plenty hints and clues and suggestions and prompts along the way. It is continuously moving, Syl.
I don't know why, Beena. I don't know.
You were editing. That's why it is jumping to next row and the next thing. So yes,
Yeah, but the editing doesn't affect the up and down.
it does for me. I don't know why,
Oh,
but okay.
oh.
Okay. But we can get plenty hits and clues, suggestions and prompts along the way. If we don't learn willingly, well, oh, where it is now. Okay. Well, we might get shoved a bit. And if we still don't learn, things might get unpleasant as we are forced to learn or suffer. The key here is to understand that good isn't always nice, but it's always positive. Once I realized this and saw the grand sense of it all, well, from then on, positivity
Well,
stopped being,
pause there. Well, come on.
well,
Yeah.
from then on, positivity stopped being a choice, really, but a simple fact of life. Once we connect to the incredible fantasticness that is the school of awareness we call the world, how can it be anything else but positive? Everything is there to, in some way, move us along the path of awareness. To maintain our positive outlook, we simply have to insist in the beginning. Then, at some point, it all changes and we end up living in a different world because not only have we become different, but that world we find ourselves in is nothing but positive and good, even if it is not always nice. At least that's what works for me. The young man says it all. I can only add, that's how it works for me too, Biella.
Very cool. Right.
Okay, this shoving up of this thing. There is a saying, okay, yeah, I don't know that it was in a book or something. So Mama was just telling, okay, no, actually, my grandpa was telling this story. It's a short story about that someone just came to know that Allah is the one who always gives you to feed, to get food and all these things. And he says, oh, so now all my efforts are like useless. So Allah is the one who just provide me food and everything. So I'm not going to eat till till Allah will actually feed me. So and
Yeah. Great excuse for
people,
laziness. Great excuse for laziness and for
yes, so
responsible.
yes. So
Yeah.
that and of course people were saying that okay, you are not getting the point, and it's you're getting crazy and all that. And of course everybody was like okay, they were trying to, but then he didn't realize, and he really get bothered with all that. Okay, they were trying to tell him something, and okay, that we need to understand and blah blah blah. So he by the out of botheration, he said okay, I'm going to sit outside the city or town, and then he just went there outside and sit in the graveyard.
Oh.
And the night came, and the night, because the graveyard was a place where of course nobody was there in the night. So the dacoits, I guess this is the word for that, robbers or what, something, yes, and thieves. So they were the group of them. They were sitting there, and they said, oh, they came there and they were distributing and okay, whatever the things they have stolen or theft or robbed. And one of them saw this person sitting there. They assumed that he is a spy or something looking for us, like for the police or something. So they just grabbed him and say, no, okay, now you have to, uh, what you were doing here. And he says, no, nothing. I was just sitting here for some. I said, no. The more vague answer he was giving, the more suspicious it was for them.
Uh,
So because they were sitting there hiding in a place. So they were cooking some sweet. And they says, oh, so he might be giving us poison. So now you need to eat this first. And in his mind, he says, no, I'm not going to eat anything. Only Allah is going to feed me. The more he was refusing, the more convinced they were that, okay, there is some poison in it and this he's responsible.
Yeah.
So, of course, they tried and then because he refused, so then the guy, the group leader, stood up and he says, okay, now just hold him. And they literally shoved in his mouth
Yeah.
and with with the baseball kind of a thing, they
Yeah.
were literally shoved. And so the next morning, some people found him that, okay, almost faint and really injured and all that. So they were asking, like, what happened with you? He says that, oh, I got my answer. Allah do feed you, but with the shovel.
I will feed you if you don't feed yourself, but with a shovel. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great story. That's a great
Yes.
story. Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes if you don't really put some effort to be aware to understand things, then of course the universe has its own way to teach you.
He made the mistake of assuming it's direct, you know. This
Yes,
happens
yes,
indirectly. And
yes,
in other words, our efforts or how Allah uses, or the universe,
yes,
God or the fairy queen, how that greater entity causes things to happen for others through us. So
yes,
me taking
yes,
responsible and me being deliberate is how it happens for others. It doesn't happen direct.
yes,
We are, in other words, we are part of Allah, the universe, the everything. Yes, we are part of it. We are
yes,
part of it, and we have to understand that. That's part of our
yes,
divinity. Is that we are a part of it. We are
yes.
instrumental. You know, we are a cog,
Right.
a gear in the grand
Absolutely,
mechanism. So
absolutely.
everything is
Okay, so,
done indirectly because we are all part of all. So everything goes through everybody. Very cool. All right, let's see the
exactly.
next one.
Okay, so no, so I need to go and eat. It's already way late. It's
Oh, oh,
11:21
okay.
now. Yes, so it's I think okay. No, but if you want to continue, then I will listen to
Oh,
it.
can you listen while you eat?
Yes.
Okay,
So I
then
will
I'll
just
read
put
it.
my laptop
Then
away.
I'll read it. Then I'll read it because I do want to get through these, and time is precious, so I do want to get through these.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay. This is
yes.
this
So
is a
I
great
will
one. This
listen.
is a great one. Yeah, I like this. Should you hold on to something that doesn't make you happy? Boy, talk about a layered question. Yes, by implication, when we learn to pay attention to implications, as I stress over and over so many times, we learn to see so much, right? It seems like a simple question, but it's not, right? Definitely not. Dear Jennifer, should is a tricky beast, or as I like to call it, should, in inverted commas, right? Question to ask is, should according to who? Yeah? Why is it what others think is appropriate applicable to you? Who gets to decide what is best for you? That's the problem with should. It distorts our thinking. We end up just automatically looking elsewhere and outside of ourselves for answers. And outside of ourselves to others. That has to be because we want to look outside of ourselves to the universe, not to others for answers. That's an important distinction. The implication implied by should is that we ourselves don't have the answers. And that implies that somehow we aren't qualified or sensible enough to determine what's good and appropriate for ourselves. Now, all right, we may not be, we may come to discover that we don't have good sense. But in that discovery, surely we should make the effort then to acquire that good sense. But anyway, we'll see. Effort reward. In the end, only we ourselves can decide what's best for us. After all, we know ourselves best. Not only that, but people are different. Very, very different. It only appears that we are similar. That's mostly superficial. It only appears we are similar. No need that big. Redundant, boy. Especially since there's another that following closely that is needed. It only appears we are similar, but that's mostly superficial, as we tend to behave in similar ways for practical and convenient reasons. But inside, there's a huge range of what makes us individuals. So yes, if you're an author also, pay attention to that. I would recommend you do Control F as in a find, and you search for that, and really check and see if those that's are actually needed. Mostly they aren't. Like in that case, right? I took it out there. It only appears that we are similar. That's how we talk. But when reading, it actually is very different, right? So now when we read this, right, first it was, it only appears that we are similar, but that's mostly superficial. See how that and that, it's a little, it makes for reader fatigue. And this is what it's actually technically called, right? But when you take it out, it only appears we are similar, but that's mostly superficial, as we tend to behave in similar ways for practical and convenient reasons. But inside, there's a huge range of what makes us individuals. Looking at holding on to something, we can ask ourselves, what's the value in it for us? What's the usefulness? Yeah, it helps enormously to be aware that good is not necessarily nice. This is obviously a big theme for, yeah, it's come up now already 3 times. Taking this understanding and applying it to the specifics of a situation, we may arrive at seeing that whatever it is, it can be good for us, but not nice. However, usually we are consumed with a not nice aspect, and this tends to dominate our perspective. Now, again, she's coming at it from a different angle. Right? It doesn't matter in the greatness of the book. It's repetitive, but not repetitive. Or I should say it's repeated, but not repetitive. That's what I meant to say. It's repeated, but not repetitive. Yes, that's epistrophe. That's actually where it's emphasized and magical. Right? If we make that shift to focus on what's good about the situation or issue, then this can cause a considerable change in our habits. If we know something is good for us, if we are sure it's good for us, even if it isn't particularly nice, it makes it easier to deal with. We can even achieve a complete turnaround in our perspective and now see it wasn't nice as nice. Once we focus on that goodness, it can have a profound effect on our happiness. Often fully understanding the extent of our goodness involved, in the extent of our goodness involved, leads to not nice becoming nice. Because now appreciation enters into the picture, as well as value and usefulness. Now we can address the critical question, is it worth psychological payoff? Is that reward, that payoff, that benefit, is it worth the effort involved? That is a key critical question. Yes, stress and unhappiness are included in effort because it takes energy to suffer. Wow. Yes, stress and unhappiness and such are included in effort because it takes energy to suffer. Many don't realize this. They think it's the path of least resistance, but it's not. It's not. That's the price we pay. So we have to look closely at the goodness, at the value, at the usefulness, and decide if the reward is worth the price, worth the effort, worth the hassle, worth the effort to us individually. Not to anyone else, but worth it to us, ourselves, personally, intimately, worth it according to our most inner selves. Only we can make this determination for ourselves. No one else can. Here we have to let go of the distortion of should. That's according to others, according to an average, according to not you. Should can't ever really be appropriate except by chance. Should from others can't ever really be intimately appropriate except by chance. When we look past should and look honestly and without filters at that payoff, and if it works for us, then it actually changes much. Usually we realize we have been holding on to things because of others, because of should, because somehow we thought this is the right thing to do. That's the deceptive corruption of should. It gets us to do things according to what's good for others, not what's good for ourselves. Yeah. Balancing appropriateness. We also don't want to turn into inconsiderate, self-centered a-holes. No, we don't. At the same time, living our lives according to what others want is no good either. We need to find balance. Yes, as much as possible. Live in a way that does not make others unhappy, but at the same time, we can't sacrifice our personal integrity and our own happiness either. Much depends on exactly what we do and how we behave. If it's direct actions that can affect others, one thing. But if it's an issue of perception and style and way of being, which are purely subjective, well, then if others are made unhappy, that's their choice. We cannot, for instance, accommodate intolerance or pettiness or other negativities. Negativities. Yeah. Learn the spelling. Thank you. If what you are holding on to is neither good nor makes you happy, then letting go is entirely appropriate and sensible. I can only imagine you would hold on to something that makes you unhappy because there is some good involved. But good for whom and good why? Asking these detailed questions and looking at the precise reasons will lead you to an answer which is appropriate for you. One thing to keep in mind is that if we are unhappy, we add to the unhappiness of the world. Oh, wow, that's a big point there. I want to make that an exclamation. And if we are unhappy, we add to the unhappiness of the world. Likewise, if our unhappiness is at the expense of others, we also add to the unhappiness of the world. This means we have to find ways to be happy that do not add to the negativity of the world. It also means we have an ethical responsibility to be in such a way that we add happiness to the world. A powerful reason when it comes to deciding whether or not to hold on to something causing you unhappiness. Yes. When we abrogate personal responsibility, seeking to transfer our sensibility and efforts externally, then we will, as you say, inevitably be disappointed. To me, it's just how the universe or life works. I see it as being all about developing and enhancing our awareness. This means developing our sensibility, our sobriety, our responsibility for choosing to remain alive. Choosing to remain alive. And so much more, including joy and all the associated superlatives. The point of developing and enhancing awareness is to enable us to be appropriate in whatever ways are appropriate relative to ourselves and all the contexts we find ourselves in, however long. And I'm going to cut it extremely short. Otherwise, this will be long. Not that I mind, but unless it's short, don't want to impose. Ah, so beautiful you are. However, when it comes to decision making, matters get complicated. Yeah, looking beyond the confines of self is useful, but it's important how we conceive this and how exactly we define internal and external. What typically happens is that external is imagined as something separate. That's where the problems start. When we see internal and external as a continuum, then matters are significantly and profoundly different. We retain that responsibility, while at the same time allowing ourselves to extend beyond the confines of experience, idea, and even imagination. Thus, connectivity in this way, what in my worldview and the associated philosophy I have developed. She didn't really develop, I was including her as generosity there. And the associated philosophy I have developed, we define as attunement. We have attunement as one of the core A's in the A plus philosophy, as it allows for that transcendence of the regular self into the more. Such a huge topic. Love it. I need to adapt that because I was so writing it from me here, but Biella didn't develop this. The young man did. Yeah. I had to edit a bit. Thus, connectivity in this way, what's in my worldview and associated philosophy I subscribe to, is defined as, there we go. There we go. Is defined as attunement. All right, let's read this again here. When we see internal and external as a continuum, then matters are significant and profound different. We retain that responsibility while at the same time allowing ourselves to extend beyond the confines of experience, idea, and even imagination. Thus, connectivity in this way, what in my worldview and associated philosophy I subscribe to, is defined as attunement. Thus, connectivity in this way, what in my worldview and associated philosophy I subscribe to, is defined as thus connectivity in this way. In my worldview and associated philosophy I subscribe to, not the what must go, is defined as attunement. Thus, connectivity in this way, in my worldview and the associated philosophy I subscribe to, is defined as attunement. We have attunement as one of the core A's in the A plus philosophy, as it allows for that transcendence of the regular self into the more. This practical philosophy has attunement as one of the core A's in the A plus philosophy, as it allows for the transcendence of the regular self into the more. Such a huge topic. Love it. Smiley face, laughy face, heart. Yeah. The AI voices, which now have become really good. By the way, Ramzi, you publish on Amazon. Look in. Yeah, I'll show you what I mean. If you're still looking at this, in your Amazon bookshelf, right, where you publish, right, right, where you go to your bookshelf and it says live, and you've got the Kindle ebook and the paperback. Look here, look carefully. See, add audiobook with virtual voice. Now, for some reason, this particular one isn't eligible. But I had to fix the table of contents or something. I'm still waiting for it to come eligible. But on my other book, which I did the same way, it is, right? And you can, this is using their virtual voice, right? Right? As it says here, right? Add audiobook with virtual voice. These virtual voices are AI voices, but these are the best out there. I've long followed it. It was called Amazon Polly, where they were developing, and I helped them. I would send them feedback to say, oh, it's pronouncing, invalid as invalid. Right? And it's kind of hard to make that distinction between two. Still has that problem, actually. But nonetheless, right? the sound of it is excellent. It's really, really good. It's quite amazingly so. It's truly excellent. I really, really recommend doing this if you don't have the resources to have an audiobook made otherwise, because that can be very expensive, right? Yes, you can get narrators who will do profit share with you, take a bigger percentage, bigger payout, but they won't do it unless you've proven to be a highly popular author. Because if you're going to hire them, you're starting at 50,000 for a book, right? For any level of competence. Now, of course, you can get much less than that. If you want any level of competence, it's 50,000. It's quite a project to read a book. And if you've done it yourself, which I have, like all my programs, I have them. I have audio with all the writing, right? So I've done this, and some of those programs are very large. It's a job. And those are, I'm doing it on a slide by slide basis. So it's a lot easier. I don't even have the extra difficulty of putting things together, in full chapters, because you break and you pause and you re-edit. So you have these little snippets that you all have to combine together. It's a project. It's a project. And that's just doing it yourself, right? I mean, when you really want to do this more professionally, you've got the sound engineers and they clean it up, and you got to do all of that yourself. Now I have professional equipment or program to do this. It's free. It's fantastic program. It's called Audacity. If you want to do audio, I absolutely recommended this. It's my Audacity. Right? It's a wonderful, wonderful program. It allows you to truly make professional audio, and it's completely for free. You can cut and edit and all of this, right? Okay. This is where I made the ads for the podcast, right? The audio ads, radio ads, in other words. And you see, this is the recording, right? It's 30 seconds. Look, I had to get it exactly in 30 seconds. But you can add in, and they wanted 10 seconds of time at the end. So you see, there's that extra 10 seconds that I added because I stopped a little after, and then I took it up past what we see. And you can see there's a define. So I stopped there and then started recording, and I just didn't record anything. But you can take out the little section. If I hit delete now, it will remove that. Or if I hit copy and then click somewhere else, I can insert that, right? So you can extend, and that's very useful for trimming your words. Because sometimes when you listen to it back, you say, there was a bit of a long pause. Or you sometimes, if you don't have really good microphone recording equipment, even if you do have it, you can still hear that breath sometimes, right? And when you can cut those out and see it on the recording, it's really powerful. So great stuff, great stuff. In case you're watching, I don't know if you know about this or not, but anyway, it's useful information for anybody who's watching this. But I wanted to make this point, Ramzi, if you are here, about this virtual voices, because it's a new thing. Yes, and your books may be sitting there and you haven't looked at this bookshelf for a while and not realize it's available to you. Yes? Very cool. Like, I didn't know at first. I don't know how soon this was, but I'm just very happy to discover that it's there. Very cool stuff. All right. Okay, I'll read one more. I'll go till 12. This is very useful for me to read because you see, as I'm reading, I'm also editing. Yes? And this year, I forgot the bit that I'm writing as Biella. Biella didn't develop this. I don't want to say the young man, So I changed it to say, and the associated philosophy, right? Which is the A+ philosophy, or the philosophy of appropriateness. There's two names, right? This practical philosophy has the two. Here we go. As one of the cores A in that A+ philosophy. As it allows for the transcendence of the regular self into the more. Very cool, very cool, very cool ending there. Ramzi, I don't know what happened to you, but man, I'm keen to hear feedback from you. I'm keen to hear. Oh well, anyone, not just Ramzi, anyone on these, because this is going to be published, and unlike some of my, like the Biella series, which this is, yes, if others enjoy it, it's wonderful. But the intent of it was for me to express myself and put it into this. But these these books are written for others. I mean, specifically for those that are reading the questions. And and because it was in a column originally, the intent is for benefit from all the readers of the newspaper. Yes, so anybody who reads the column, right? So it's a little different here to what I normally do. Normally, I'm not doing anything for others. If they benefit, it's a bonus, but I'm doing it for me and my reasons, which have nothing to do with others liking, enjoying, approving, etc. Right? So this is very different for me. This is very different for me. Um, that's why I'm keen to get feedback. I'm very keen to get feedback to hear how relatable it is, how understandable it is. Does it connect? Does it make sense? Beena is used to me and my sharing. Yes. So Beena enjoys them. She loves these, but that doesn't necessarily mean the general public is going to. Beena and I chat every day on this type of stuff. This is what we do. Whenever we connect, this is what we do. Talk about this type of stuff, right? And respond to whatever's coming up as a question or a query or simply something that we want more discernment on, more understanding, more awareness, etc. Want to apply, right? All of this, right? Nobelia-Living, in other words, right? This is what Nobelia-Living is all about. But that doesn't tell me how the general public is going to connect to these. Now, the overall general public is not those who will necessarily respond to this, but the general public in the context of self-learning, self-improvement, growth, looking at more psychology, philosophy, whatever you want to call it, right? All of that field. It's not necessarily just everybody, right? It's not everybody's interested in this sort of. Okay, realism is the heading. Okay. How do you become a happy pessimist? Actually, I should read it as chapter 15, realism.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Beena?
Yes.
Oh, you're back. Back. You want to read?
Okay.
Good. I have to go take care of something real quickly. I'll be back in a second. You read, please.
Okay.
You read.
Okay. And you have something to respond on eBay also.
Oh, I saw that, but that can wait.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, I can
Realism.
wait an hour or so. Not in a hurry. Yeah.
Realism. How do you become a happy pessimist? I just don't know how to think positively. Dear Carrie, a few perspectives come to mind, most concerning definitions. Let's look at what we might mean with the various terms and matters usually becomes clearer. And matters usually becomes clearer. The terms pessimists and optimists are usually associated with happy and unhappy, likewise with positive and negative. However, this is not actually accurate. Positivity and optimism, especially, are typically associated with an unrealistic, skewed perspective on life. I believe that optimists distort reality in some way and fool themselves into thinking life will be better or is better than it is. While there are some people who do this, optimism or positivity is nothing but having an expectation that things will work out better or good, since predicting the future is a tricky business. Mostly how we choose to believe in the future is a matter of choice. So let's get real. What will be can be anything. If we look back, since we can look back, this means we are still here. Thus, the worst has not happened. We have survived. If, like for some, it has been and maybe still is a rough ride, we can take some solace in the fact that we somehow manage, somehow get through things, somehow survive. We can bolster ourselves with the knowledge that we are survivors. In a more general view, if we ignore the noise of the present and zoom out a bit and look at actual statistics of life on Earth, we see that things are measurably and significantly better now than they have been ever. They have ever been. Even within the lifetimes of most, this is the realistic view. Yes, it is. Okay. Turning pessimism. Our issue is how to convert pessimism, how to use it, how to extract value out of it. Despite things generally getting better on average, this does not mean the improvements will apply to us personally. We might be the exception, or we might not. One, okay, there it is now. Why it just jumped?
I did delete something, so I did make it one sentence shorter. Yeah.
Okay, or we might not. One consent, one constant we can bank on in life is change. Even if change does not come to us, we can always institute change ourselves. Always we have that option. Even if changing our circumstances is impossible, changing perspective is always an option. And option. Okay. Let's assume an honest and realistic assessment of circumstances. And if the probabilities do not look good, resulting in a pessimistic appraisal. Okay. Appraisal, how can we turn this to our advantage? Let's look at the benefits. For one, we actually have that assessment, which means we are in touch with our lives. Yes. Our circumstances, ourselves, and where we are in relation to it all. This means we are aware of what's happening and going on in our lives. This alone, just the awareness alone, is a tremendous value. Once we are aware of a problem, we can start to deliberately do something about it. Yes. If we can't, at least we are aware, we can prepare. We won't be taken by surprise. Our realistic appraisal, which happens to not have a particularly good view, nevertheless has value and usefulness to us. This we can be happy.
This, I want to emphasize it there. This we can be happy
about. Okay. This we can be happy about, especially if we see that things are the way they are and there's little to be done about it.
Yeah, another that. Look, I've already taken out 3 or 4 of that since I commented about superfluous that's.
Yeah. We may as well be happy. Why not? Is there anything we can do? No. So it's not up to us how things work out. Thus, we may as well be happy. What we do have to be happy about.
No,
we can be happy about.
What do we have?
What do we have to be happy about? We can be happy about knowing what's going on, happy about being aware, and happy about being prepared, happy that we have identified potential problems, happy about doing whatever we can, and happy that we have done what we can, if that applies. We can be happy about the fact that we are realists, seeing the world accurately. Here we can make a shift. Pessimism is taking an unjustified negative view of things. If we are realists, however, and it just so happens that things are negative or likely to be, well, then that's just life. All we can do is make the best of it all. Yeah. Understanding that a negative view is not necessarily pessimism, but can be realism makes all the difference.
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. Wow.
Okay, selective emphasis. One key aspect of all this is to be aware of emphasis, focus, and the resulting immersion. All of these creates bubbles of perception. Look what happens to people who lose their temper. They disconnect temporarily from the larger world and exist inside this small bubble. Same things happens when we have, okay, or watch a movie. The world briefly changes. All depends on our attention. What we place our attention on changes how we perceive the world. There's just too much detail for us to focus on everything, like the intent. So we have to filter all that information and detail. Our attention, what we focus on, and especially what we emphasize is, okay, filter. What we emphasize is such a filter, causing us to be more aware. Causing us to be more aware of and notice more sharply that which we place our attention or focus on. What most people, unfortunately, do not know is that when we emphasize anything, it literally changes the brain. I mean, physically changes the brain. When we emphasize, we enlarge and grow the brain nodes associated with what we are emphasizing. This causes those nodes to connect more to other similar nodes, which leads to us noticing more of the same or similar. This is how our bubbles of perception change. It's a powerful knowledge and makes a huge difference to how we can approach life.
That emphasis is a big, 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 big.
Yes. Leveraging perspective. Knowing this now, but is still being in the habit maybe of having pessimistic view, how do we change matters? We start by separating goods and nice. Good is not always nice. They tend to get confused, but are not the same. If you have to choose for your children between what is good for them and what is nice, what do you choose? You have to choose good over nice, always. Applying this to our pessimism, we can make the effort to look at what good we can extract from whatever situation we are in. Good such as leaning. Sorry, I just read that out of habit. Okay. Good such as learning, or maybe the good of having an opportunity to grow, to practice and apply what we have learned, a chance to extend ourselves, or perhaps the good of the negative circumstances is that it is unpleasant,
Oh,
thus forcing us to do something about it or suffer. The good of negativity is often that it's a good motivator. Okay, it's a good motivator, getting us off our wow,
right.
wow,
Yeah,
getting us off when otherwise we might not be bothered.
yeah.
In
Getting
any
us our
situation,
backsides when otherwise we're not be bothered. Beena doesn't want to read asses, but it-
yep,
it's a
okay.
common
In
expression.
any
It's not seen as rude.
yeah.
But where
in
you
any situation, in any situation, does there is some good we can extract. That's the key. We have to make that habit of effort to make that extraction. This is how we apply positivity. Being positive is making that effort to find the good. There's always a good somewhere. We just have to look for it. In all of this shifting of perspective, the refocusing, most of it has been to seeing the good, finding the good, extracting good, and thus emphasizing good. Now we get to the key shift of all of this. We need to connect goodness to happiness.
mm,
That's where the difference lies. Goodness is something to be happy about. Even goodness that is maybe not particularly nice, we can still be happy about the fact that it is good. By emphasizing the good and associating that emphasized goodness with happiness, good with happiness, we place emphasis on the happiness we are finding and now creating because of the way the brain works. This changes how we perceive things. Positive pessimism. In this way, by finding the good in our pessimistic but realistic perceptions, we get value and usefulness, both of which are positive. Here is where we can leverage our pessimism by transforming it to realism and connecting the realism to goodness, goodness to positivity. We then can connect to happiness because we have extracted um, benefit for ourselves via our pessimism, or more accurately, our pessimism, as it has now changed.
look at the difference there. Um,
Yes, I'm trying.
because we have extracted benefit for ourselves via our pessimism, or more accurately, our pessimism. See, when the inverted
Hmm,
commas takes on a different pronunciation in audio. Our pessimism, there's a slight pause there, right? And an inflection
hmm.
difference via our pessimism, or more accurately, our pessimism. It's a slight emphasis, right? As it has now changed. Please keep going.
Yes. Through shifting our perspective, through making a different kind of effort, through leveraging what is, how we see it all, how we relate to it, how we use it, we get usefulness out of it all. And that usefulness is valuable, and this we can be happy about. Bottom line of it all, our happiness is connected to our beliefs. Simply believing that pessimism means being unhappy usually results in that belief being self fulfilling, like almost everything seldom is something one way or another. As we have seen, pessimism can be positive if used that way via realism and connecting to value and usefulness. This pessimism can be used to make us happy. It's useful here to keep in mind that these are words. Words are meanings we give to things, and those meanings are flexible. How we assign meaning is up to us, same as how we choose to perceive, and it's especially up to us the perspective we choose. We can choose to have any perspective. Sorry, we can choose to have any perspective we like on anything at all. It's our perspective that determines what we get and thus determines our happiness or not. To become a happy pessimist simply entails redefining what you mean. How you view matters. Biella.
Now, to become a happy pessimist simply entails redefining what you mean, how you define matters, how you view matters. Yeah. I need to put in the cadence is wrong there. Redetermining how you view matters. Right? Let's read that again. The whole last paragraph. We can choose to have any perspective we like on anything at all. It's our perspective which determines what we get, and thus determines our happiness or not. To become a happy pessimist simply entails redefining what you mean, redetermining how you view matters. View these things. Biella. Yeah, last paragraphs and last sentences are read in a very different way to regular, right? Very different.
Yes.
All right. Very cool. Very different. Again, it's the same theme, yes, and it's a recurring
Yes.
theme, but that's fine. That we get to see the same themes from different angles. And I find that very, very valuable, right?
Yes.
I don't want to mention that about Biella, right? Uh, okay. Just for those who weren't here, Beena and I have read this already, but I'll read it again because I want to add in that part about paying attention to how Biella responds. Right? So this is the start. Yeah, you see the title, copyright, contents about Biella. It's chapter 0. I don't want to call it an introduction. I'm just not saying it's anything. Just about Biella. Biella Noble is an alter ego, an avatar, an amalgam, and the main character of the Biella series. Biella represents much: sensibility, goodness, awareness, discernment, understanding, compassion, sophistication, and more. She is to some extent an ideal we might aspire to. Through hearing Biella share her discernment and understanding, through her application of all she is and stands for, we obtain a marvelous view. Through hearing how, that's where it comes in. That's where it comes in. Yes, Beena?
Yes.
Through hearing how Biella shares, her discernment and understanding, through her application of all she is and stands for, of how he is. So now the how is emphasized. How is
Yes.
emphasized by repetition. We obtain a marvelous view of Nobelia-Living, which is the specific and deliberate applied culture of Nobelia. A culture, way of living, and way of being, which, as Biella so ably demonstrates, we absolutely can have in our daily lives and can be as a realistic aspiration. again exemplified by Biella as a feasible and attainable option. It's a long sentence otherwise, if it runs onto that. To be a realistic aspiration is a PowerPoint that needs to be the end of the sentence or paragraph, right? Again, exemplified by Biella as a feasible and attainable option. This representation and demonstration of Nobelia-Living, in addition to answering the question from a Moreness-Living perspective, is a deliberate intent of sharing this profound and awesome alternative paradigm culture, which is the culture of Nobelia, and also an aim to share through the Ask Biella books and the Biella series. A deep, deep intent of these works is to share actual and real tools for living, which can be used by anyone, no matter who they are, or where they may be, or how much they may know, to apply to themselves for transformative benefit and value. These works aim to share that which actually can be used in everyday life as an alternative to the massively destructive and problematic superiority paradigm, which so severely limits and destroys our ability to live with goodness and sensibility, which keeps us mired. I don't need to have that. Which keeps us mired in the madness which it so utterly is. Nobelia-Living is the attainable alternative, providing a light in the darkness we don't, for the most part, realize we are in. Syl Sabastian. And just a little bit of your background. So, Ask Biella started as a featured column in the Gateway Gazette newspaper and continues as a prominent part of Nobelia.org self-discovery project in the Ask Biella category of content, to which you can subscribe here at Nobelia.org. To ask Biella a question, simply email her at biellanoble@nobelia.org. You know what? That sentence, I have to, because that sentence I copied and pasted into the end notes. Simply email her. Yeah. Well, I think I may have put a colon there, but you know, it's better the at, and I need to do it in the other book as well. Because when you read it, you know, verbally, the colons are hard to read, right? To ask Biella a question, simply email her. Biella Noble at Nobelia.org. She doesn't quite read the same in audio, right? If there was a colon there. Yes? You with me, Beena?
Yes.
That's how I meant it. But that's why, you know, when it comes to editing, you have to go over things and over things and over things again. And, you know, all this is very, so easy to miss things. So easy to miss. Okay. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. On that note, we shall end things. Beena, don't go away. May have Jason. I gave him the Zoom to come on, but I'll start Zoom again immediately. Yes?
Okay. Okay.
All right. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Beena, you enjoyed the articles?
Oh, yes. Very much so. They are, okay, I don't like to use the term, but they are really super loaded.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I'm really enjoying them too. And also the fact that there is some measure of repetition, at least measure of coming at the same core topics, but from different angles. This is very cool to me because, you know, we are used to this. But if I was thinking back to when, you know, I was learning stuff and new to things, the ability, or when authors would come at the same thing from different angles, it allowed me to really, really grasp it and get it. And that getting it is what I need to be transformed, and not just have it be inside my head and then tomorrow, next week, next month, it's gone again, right? This was very, very helpful to make it your own, to implement it, to really grab onto it, to get that true capital U understanding, which can then be applied. So that coming at things from these multiple angles is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. And in different contexts as well. It's not just the same thing from multiple angles. It's the same thing applied in different contexts, which is an extended perspective shifting. Very, very useful. Very, very powerful. Very helpful. Yeah. So Biella Noble at Biella Noble at Nobelia.org. Very cool. Yeah. So I can make you an email too at Nobelia.org if you want. Beena Sidd at Nobelia.org. Beena Sidd, either way.
Oh yes.
If you
Oh
need it,
yes. Oh
want,
yes.
just something to be aware of. Make them. It's fun. It's fun. I'm all bunch of them. All bunch. All right, so I'm going to come right back on Zoom, and we'll end meeting over there. Thank you, thank you, thank you,
Yes. Make
Ramzi.
it be Sid at Nobelia.
Say again.
Make it be Sid at Nobelia.org, not
Okay,
Beena Sidd.
I'll make it when we have a need for it. Otherwise, we forget about it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Oh
I'll
yeah.
make.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's too easy to. So thank you, Ramzi, and thank you, Norma. Even if you're not here, I'll say thank you anyway. Maybe Norma will listen to it
Yes.
later and then make comments later. Feedback on these particularly. Normally, feedback is a bonus, but yeah, it's especially important because the Ask Biella books are written with the intent of them being valuable and useful and interesting and entertaining to others. Yes, it's very different to our usual intent.
Yes.
Been it? Right.
Yes.
All right. On that note, we'll do end meeting for all.
And
See you soon.